Hey guys, look, there's a new game theory.
I made the thumbnail. Does that mean I'm not dead?
Well, that thumbnail says that I am.
Well, hit that like button and subscribe, otherwise you're gonna make the prototype mad again.
Let's see if these so-called theorists know anything.
Poppy's Chapter 5 teaser is
right.
here, and the mysteries it holds for the upcoming chapter can all be solved thanks to one thing.
What's that? Fortnite?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to
Hello.
Game Theory, the show that is determined to uncover the secret of the ooze. Not the Ninja Turtle kind, mind you, the Poppy
Ninja
Playtime
Turtles.
kind. Because after a lot of radio
no.
silence, we've got on our first glimpse for Poppy
I know
Playtime
what
Chapter
that stuff
5. At the
is.
end of Chapter
It's
4,
not
we were
gay.
abandoned by Poppy. We got split up from
Yep.
Kissy Missy, and we ended up locked inside the lab, surrounded
And
by
then-
poppy flowers and a broken, yet still terrifying,
Yep, he
Huggy
came
Wuggy.
back.
We've been told that this is the domain of the prototype, the
That's
big
right.
bad of Poppy Playtime. So naturally, the hype for this next chapter has been real. And
I mean, a
thankfully,
little
this
bit.
teaser did not disappoint. The teaser begins
was
with more
okay.
shots of these anticipated labs. There are cute drawings of characters
Those-
on the
they're
walls,
not
and the
that
equipment is
cute.
brightly colored. It almost looks like a children's hospital, which
No, it
I
doesn't look
guarantee
that
you
much like
is
a
more for
hospital.
appearances than to actually reflect the horrors that go on.
I mean,
here.
it's not
Because
that
we quickly start to
horrifying.
see what
Tell
look
me,
like
you just
surgical
chose that
rooms filled
Huggy
with
Wuggy is
old, dry
back in the
blood,
spotlight.
A mysterious bubbling goo covering the
Oh,
floors,
no,
and
not
a
that
cutout
goo
of Poppy
again.
burning as this mysterious goo
Then,
spreads
why just gonna
across
burn
the
my
walls.
cardboard
I've
cutout?
gotta hand it to Mob. They nailed the creepy, unsettling vibes for these teasers.
Oh,
and
yeah,
of course,
that's for
this one is
sure.
filled to the beaker brim with that stuff we crave, lore.
Lore.
Which I believe not only gives us insight into the foundations of Playtime Co.'s whole experimental
all
process,
about
but
the
also
lore.
might be warning us about a surprise return
Hey,
from
is
a
that
villain
Mommy
you wouldn't
Longlegs?
expect. So
Hey,
put on your lab
maybe
coats
I'm
or some
not
of our
dead.
new Poppy Playtime
Sadly,
merch
I
on
think I
theory.store,
am.
link in the description, because we've
guess that's
got to
why
head
I'm in
to
my
the lab
cartoon
and do
form.
some research
Cartoons
into this
never
Poppy
die.
Playtime Chapter 5 teaser. As
That
I've
stuff
mentioned,
looks
this
wicked.
facility looks more like a children's hospital than a lab. A lab is
Oh,
typically
God.
somewhere where scientific experiments are done.
Yeah.
Sadly, however, as we've talked about many times before, for Playtime Co., children's hospital and scientific experiments go hand in hand.
Sure,
Over the
they've got a
previous
history of
chapters, we've
experimenting
learned
on
that
orphans.
Orphans that come into Playtime Co.'s care are tested in the game station, tortured using the nightmare red smoke in the play care, and eventually
that's my
taken away
smoke.
to be turned into the living toys we've encountered throughout the facility.
Maybe
On the
I'm coming
operating table
back
in one of
after
the scenes,
all.
we can see two
Hey.
Huggy Wuggy strewn across
Those
the
are my
lab,
hands.
surrounded by blood and surgical equipment, proving that this lab is
Oh.
absolutely where these transformations happened. Where
That's
Harley Sawyer, the
right.
mad doctor who came up with the idea for the Bigger Bodies Initiative, did his finest work. What's
Yes,
even more
that's true.
concerning is that we were told in Chapter 4 that this is where the prototype is keeping the orphans who survived the
poor
mass extinction
orphans.
event known as the Hour of Joy.
The
That wasn't
weren't
very
killed during the
joyful.
Hour of Joy. They're below. In the
That
labs,
place
the
blew
prototype's home.
up.
Fortunately, it doesn't look like these surgeries
Along with
happened
all the
recently.
orphans.
The blood on the floor looks old, dry, and faded. Much like the blood we've seen in previous chapters from employees
Ew.
killed during the Hour of Joy in 1985. Plus, we know that the prototype didn't allow Harley access to this part of the
How does
facility
this
once
guy
the Bigger
know
Bodies
so
took over.
much?
That will give me labs access.
That is out of the question.
Oh, he
So it's
probably
not like
watched
you
all
can
the
continue experimenting
tapes.
on the kids even if you wanted to. But while the prototype seems like it's trying to protect the orphans, that doesn't mean there isn't
Yeah,
any
right.
experimentation going on. After we get shots of the surgical rooms, we are shown a room with the
Hey,
prototype
is that the
shadow
stuff that
creeping
I
past
fell
the
into?
doorway. But that isn't where the camera's focus is. The camera is
No.
instead drawing our eyes to the bright pink
On
and
the
orange
goop.
bubbling goo that covers parts of the floor. Much like the gas mask in Chapter 3's teaser, this being emphasized shows us that this is going to be important to this
should be
part of
called
the story. So
Poppy
what is it?
Playtime.
Well,
The
just like with
secret
Chapter
of
3's
the
teaser, I
ooze.
think it's wild to assume that this has something to do with poppies. They are basically the MacGuffins of
and
this
like her
series
name,
and have
too?
always been part of the scientific process for Playtime Co. All the way back in Chapter 2, we got this
What if
note
that
on
stuff was
Elliot's
made
desk
out of
about
poppy?
Experiment
Wait.
814, where they were
Wait,
trying
it
to
is?
revive rats by submerging them in poppy gel and then sending a current through it.
Bro, I
This
was totally
where my
kidding,
brain
but I
immediately
guess I'm
went when I
right.
saw the bubbling goop on the floor. That this is the poppy gel that we read about all those
And it
years
turns
ago.
us
Obviously,
into
that gel
monsters.
didn't work.
I
Experiment
mean, toys.
814 is
It turns us
considered a
into
failure, but
toys.
the writer, most likely Harley Sawyer, believed it would be possible
I haven't
to
to get a
large
sense of those
subjects.
papers.
We then never hear about this gel again, so
Guys,
it is entirely possible
I don't
that
think we're
Harley was
supposed to
right,
know
and
this
that this gel
information.
derived from poppies did work to revive its subjects once they switched over to children. And that
Oh,
is
yeah.
therefore the gel that we we are seeing on the floor here. However, something definitely feels different.
I think we're
about
meant
it.
to
Originally, the
forget
subject
all
was
of
just
this.
put into the gel, as in around the outside of them. It was more of a conductor with electricity being sent through the gel
Ouch.
to try and bring the subject back to life, with some help from the poppy flower, of course. But now, it
And
seems
some
more
magic
active,
crystals.
bubbling on its own, which is never a good sign. And in the final scene, as well as in the thumbnail
yeah,
for
look
the
at it,
teaser
it's
itself, the
glowing.
gel seems to have these
Looks
vein-like
like
structures
brains.
coming out of it, almost like it's a living thing. Maybe this is how they created the physical biology for the bigger bodies. While they used some
That's a
human
good
parts, as
theory.
we've seen in previous notes, a child isn't going to have enough muscles or organ material to stretch over something as tall as Huggy Wuggy. But that's entirely speculation.
You could
We
fill it
have
up
no
with
way
the
of
goop.
really knowing exactly what this gel is. Or that's what I thought, until I found out that there is very important poppy lore pertaining to exactly this in the most unlikely
So
of
all the
places.
toys bleed,
Fortnite.
right?
Yes, you heard me right. Fortnite, the free-to-play battle
Fortnite.
royale, has poppy playtime lore. In October, Fortnite held
you guys
their
play that?
Fortnightmares
Oh, I
event.
love
That
Fortnite.
name is almost as confusing
pretty
as the
good,
Poppy
actually.
Playtime line. But regardless, as part of a preview, the week before the event, Mob
I
Entertainment
wanna play
released a
Fortnite.
map called Poppy Playtime
I'm not
Assemble,
good at
which included
Fortnite.
Huggy Wuggy and the ruined critters as enemies to avoid. It's pretty straightforward in that regard.
Hey, that
However,
doesn't look
hidden
like
throughout the map
Fortnite.
were Poppy Playtime's iconic notes and
I'd play
VHS tapes.
that.
At first, I thought this was just going to be stuff we already knew. Repeats of notes and VHS tapes from previous chapters. You know,
Wait.
just trying to get new fans hooked and caught up. But oh,
There's lore
boy,
in
was I wrong.
Fortnite?
These notes cover so much new stuff that feels way too big for a
Wow.
random collab. For example, they just casually revealed Poppy's real name.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know
the real
her
name she
name.
had when she was a human before she died tragically in the 1960s
You guys
and was
wanna
turned into
know?
a toy by her father, Elliot Ludwig. Guys, we've been over this. Putting lore in a spin-off game is one thing. Expecting audiences to solve complex ARGs to keep up with the story is another. But
Is it?
there are so many people who just won't know about this stuff simply because they don't want to play Fortnite. You're an indie horror
I
game. Battle
wanna
Royales
play
and indie horror games
Fortnite.
always have the best crossover audience. What's next? Does your Minecraft
Oh, that's
collab have
true.
crucial lore? Oh, please don't tell me your Minecraft collab has crucial lore.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, there's a note you can find that is a diary entry from her, telling us she's 11 in March of 1960, and she even
And
signs
her
her
name
And that name
is-
is, drumroll please,
Poppy.
Yep, it's just the same name. I guess even the
What
most
did you guys
creative
think
minds
it
have
was
their
gonna
off days.
be?
However, that isn't the note I wanted to focus on. Instead, I wanted to draw your attention
Oh,
to this
this one?
document from Eddie Ritterman, the head of research, that was sent to Lee
Good old
Pierre and
Eddie.
Harley Sawyer, other executives at the company. Quote, poppy seed isolate, strain N12 times 100, organized fertilizer,
Whoa.
synthetic amnio, 18 drums. As
Organized
always, we made sure to
fertilizer?
source materials for the growth medium from our carefully
It's very
selected
organized.
vendors. No issues to note. I believe these amounts should suffice for our initial steps. Okay, a lot
Redacted.
to unpack there.
What's
What the
redacted?
heck is organized fertilizer? Did they mean organic? Or is this some kind of fertilizer that's able to arrange itself? Fertilizers, get in line. Single file. You, head over to Sector
I
C,
like it when
quadrant
his
12
eyeballs
now,
pop
or it's
out
the
like
compost
that.
pile for you. I'm kidding, of course. The main thing that actually stood out to me was that these materials are being sourced for a so-called growth medium. So not
Ooh,
only was
so
I
you can
right
grow
about this
the
definitely
big
being poppy
bodies.
related, with poppy seeds being one
They
of the
work
three
for me, though,
ingredients,
because
but
I'm a
it also
tiny little
seems like we
body.
were on the right track with the idea that this goop is in fact used to grow something as part of their experiments. So great,
Then
theorist
that's how we
instincts for the
come
win,
alive.
but as this franchise loves to do, we can go a level deeper. Let me tell you a little more about this growth medium. See, there's
What if
one
they grew
other
us in
ingredient on
pots,
that list.
like we were
Synthetic
plants?
amnio. Amnio is shorthand for the term amniocentesis, a procedure that involves taking a small
Amniocentesis.
sample of amniotic fluid for testing
Amniotic
purposes. However,
fluid,
given the term is
amniotic,
preceded by the word
amnabadoo-dabadoo-dab.
synthetic, and they're ordering 55 gallons of the stuff, I have a feeling that they aren't referring to
This
the
is a lot of
procedure, but the
scientific
amniotic
mumbo
fluid
jumbo.
itself. Amniotic fluid acts as both a protective cushion for fetuses growing inside the womb, but also helps deliver nutrients, water, and biochemical products to the fetus, which is interesting to bring up given a huge part of my
Biochemical
previous
products.
theory was about the study of embryology. Embryology is the science of studying embryos, sex cells, and fertilization, and how you can alter their development
Is that how
and
kittens are
evolution through
made?
external factors. And we learnt about that from a document that we found in Harley Sawyer's possession during his time in the Young Geniuses program, a program run by Elliot Ludwig many decades ago to help continue the push for scientific advancement. So I theorized that this was how Elliot, and therefore Harley, at least in part, were creating these living toys like Poppy, altering embryos that would grow into whatever toy body they were given. But not only is amniotic fluid connected directly to the idea that embryos are being used, it would also imply I was right about that last bit. Want to know a fun fact about amniotic fluid? The fetus doesn't just swim around in it, it ingests it, and doing so helps form things like the gastrointestinal tract. Now, remind me, what particular part of these living toys keeps coming up? Oh yeah, their digestive tract. In the original Poppy trailer, we were told that the prototype has a digestive tract like all the others, it just didn't need to use it. Ever since then, we've been reminded again and again that these toys are
there you are, Catnap. And Dog Day, too.
I remember that day.
And given this fluid is labeled as synthetic, it means it's man-made, therefore able to be modified to do so much more than just the digestive tract. That's why it's being shown with these vein-like structures going off of it.
Is that why I was so hungry?
Helping to grow these structures inside the toy bodies. It is a growth medium on a whole new level. But that wasn't the only big thing from this teaser. There's one very crucial detail that I've yet to mention that I'm sure everyone has been screaming at me to talk about. The flash frame right before the title card. In this flash frame, we see a glitchy message that reads, quote, "A needle pulls a thread. The body writhes on the table." Is this it?
I have threads.
Footsteps echo off the manor floors. What do I do now? Where do I belong? The eyes glued to the screen. Transformation and rebirth. You think you know what he wants. You don't know anything. Not yet. To me, this is clearly talking about Poppy. Her body was writhing on the operating table as she was transformed or reborn as a toy. The writer questions whether this can truly even be considered life, which would make sense for someone who's literally just seen a person reanimate as a toy. Even if you were a trained scientist, this would be unlike anything you'd seen before. We've theorized that Elliot may have used young scientists from the Young Geniuses program to help in Poppy's creation, which this would then align with. You then have the references to footsteps echoing off the manor floor. The only kind of manor we've seen or encountered, really, is where we originally found Poppy, which the survival logbook tells us is a replica of Elliot Ludwig's home. There's also the hallways that we walked through during Chapter 3, but we are hallucinating hard at this point, hearing radio broadcasts about a dead body being found on the premises of the late creator. So that also tells us that experiments were being done at his manor, or at least the first one was. The one to save his daughter. It's her footsteps that are echoing through the manor floors, unsure of who she is and, quote, where she belongs. Plus, you know, there's also the giant empty Poppy mask behind the text, with the scene originally being the Poppy cutout bursting into flames. It feels like it is supposed to be about her and her unique transformation. The first transformation. However, I want you to take a look at that last
The very first transformation.
You don't know anything. Not yet. If this is from the perspective of one of the
so that means we're gonna learn
a scientist working in the manor on Poppy's transformation, this he would then likely be applied to be Elliot himself. He was the man in charge and was the one that wanted to push science into the future. But if that's the case, then this line could also be assigned to our the prototype.
Nothing
the prototype has a huge amount of knowledge about Poppy and seems to have some
prototype. He's the
that
best.
goes beyond just being another toy.
It's time to come home.
Which led me and many others to believe that the prototype isn't just another experiment, but Elliot Ludwig now turned into a
monster.
I suppose that it might be a clone of Elliot due to some timeline shenanigans, but that doesn't really matter right now.
That doesn't matter.
What matters is that this line about not knowing what he wants does ring very true for the prototype, especially amongst the theorist community. We've been theorizing about the prototype's plan since the very beginning of the series. For the longest time, we've believed he's building something massive, a brand new, even bigger body. In Chapter 3, we saw
that's what I was talking about right there.
To be a recreated version of the prototype made up of lots of broken toy parts. And in Chapter 2, right before Mummy Longlegs died, she gave us these parting words.
I don't want to remember this.
She then ends up broken on the floor and
that
dragged
tie
away
was a
by
big
the
hit
prototype.
right
So
there.
naturally, this felt like a logical conclusion, especially given we see
Hey,
her
I
arm
didn't know
on
I
the
was in
shrine
Poppy
Catnap is
Playtime.
using. But now, this teaser, it's made me go back and reconsider this idea. We're being told that
Maybe he's using all those small bodies to make a bigger body.
We're wrong. And I'm kind of annoyed I didn't see it sooner, because right at the end of chapter 4, we
Annoying.
got the return
Oh, hey,
of
there I
infamous
am.
Huggy Wuggy. He's a little broken and beaten up, but he's back, and from the screenshots
I'm
on screen, it
back.
looks like he's once again going to be in hot
And
pursuit
I'm
of us
missing
throughout the
my
facility.
arm.
But if he's back, then he's
Ooh,
being
train rides.
not made to be part of this bigger machine, which means he might not be the only one. So, what did Mummy mean by make me a part of him? Well,
Maybe she's coming back too.
Physically making them part of him, but mentally. With all these visuals of the growth medium poppy gel that seem to be branching out, it reminded me a lot of plants and funguses and how they
We
share
can
connections with neural
communicate
networks, which drew me
with
back
our
to the note about
minds.
poppy seed intake. My research revealed that the naming convention they used for the poppy seeds doesn't
And
really work that
12?
way, at least not typically. In a scientific setting, you'd use its given scientific name.
I
as
don't
all
know
strains of
anything
poppy have
about
different names, making them
science.
easier to identify, such as Papaver somniferum for the opium poppy. The only time you refer to a flower or seed with a letter-number combo like this is during
A10,
experimentation
I can
tests,
say
such as
that.
breeding, which does make some kind of sense for this context when they need a specific strain for their experiments. But this naming convention also shows up in the world of agrobacterium. Agrobacterium is a single-celled organism that lives in soil specifically. And there is one study
That's
I found
dirt.
about agrobacterium that was found in composted poppy flowers. It's called R90, which is
Poppy
obviously not
poop.
the same as the one we've seen in the document, but it does use a letter-number naming convention. I mean, Mob clearly didn't want it to be a real strain, lest they
That would
send the
not
world
be
into a panic
good.
when nerds like me come along and figure it out. But agrobacterium
nerds.
is super interesting nonetheless. They are attracted to chemicals released by plant wounds, and once they infect the plant,
Look.
they multiply. But before they even find
Smoke
the
is
plant, they
cool.
are able to send a chemical signal to communicate with
Red
the plant to
smoke.
get it to release a special sticky substance that allows the agrobacterium to attach itself to it. Now, we're talking about
Oh, so when
toys,
it's
not
like
plants,
heart,
but they are
maybe
made
it fixes
up of a
it.
strange poppy-like concoction. So, what if this poppy gel isn't just how they make the organic parts for the toys, it's also essentially a bacterium derived from the poppy flower.
How does
One
he
that has
figure
a
this
chemical
stuff out?
connection to others infected with the same stuff, allowing the prototype to know exactly where they are when they're injured, as we saw with Mummy, Catnap, and
Oh,
Kissy,
look,
fix
there's
them
me.
up and even control them, making them a part of him, or at least his chemical agrobacterium.
This is all
network.
good
But
stuff.
here's the thing, if that's the case, then who's
I wouldn't
next?
call it
Huggy has
good.
already been revealed, but if 1006 is gathering up old toys we've defeated and bringing them back, maybe even making them more horrifying than before, which one of the many,
Wait,
many,
you think I'm
many
more
defeated
horrifying?
monsters could it be? My money is the one
I
who
don't
put
think
us
I
on this
could get
path
more
to begin
horrifying than my monster form.
Yep,
Poor
I believe
Mommy.
it's going to be Mummy Longlegs, and here's why. Mob cannot let go of this character. We defeated Mummy all the way back in chapter 2, but since then she keeps showing up in other
That's
pieces
true.
of wider media. We get her
Pieces
appearing
of her
in
at
artwork
least.
for things like Halloween. We see her continued presence in
Everybody
posters along
loves
with Daddy
Mommy
and Baby
Longlegs.
She even got an extra double-page spread in the
iconic.
orientation notebook, unlike Poppy and Huggy, who only got a single double spread each.
I only
Which
got
seems strange
one.
considering they're basically the faces of
Wait
the
a minute.
franchise. But the
I
big
thought I
inclusion
was
has
the
been
star.
in the form of notes and VHS
Whatever.
tapes. In the Chapter 3 ARG, we got an incident report where a girl had a mental breakdown during the night due to the red smoke. That girl was Marie Payne, who would later go on to become Mummy Longlegs. And now we've gotten a bunch more notes and VHS tapes about Marie Payne and Mummy Longlegs, thanks to, you guessed it, Fortnite. We have a
So
note
she wasn't
introducing
a
the
kid?
Longlegs
She
family
was an
of toys.
adult?
There's another about how
Oh,
Mummy
that's why
Longlegs
they
was
call her
introduced to experiment 1, 2, 2,
Mommy.
3, a
Okay,
colour
I
swap
get it.
counterpart that they compared to Huggy and Kissy, so likely Daddy Longlegs. This actually ends up going badly and Mummy killed Daddy, with a different note discussing
Oh,
her
no.
integration into the game station after that
Daddy
incident. And then we
Longlegs?
get a transcript of an interview Mummy does with an employee.
Mommy
She
Longlegs
doesn't
is
say much
evil.
except screaming that Playtime Co. took Maria from her, which feels
Maria,
like she's referring
Maria.
to herself, Marie, and how Playtime Co. robbed her of her true identity.
I think
which
we were
kind of
all
goes back to
robbed.
the ending glitch screen from the teaser. What do I do now? Where do I belong? She has literally lost her sense of identity. Words that the scientists
And her body,
would have
'cause
heard
she's-
echoed throughout the halls. And finally,
Both of
there
her
are then
bodies.
3 new VHS tapes interviewing an
Her
orphan
second
about
body
the
got
game station.
shredded.
In her second interview, she references how she likes Mummy, and in her third, she recalls
So
how
did
Mummy
I
said
make her
she'll take
crazy
care of
with
them
my
and
red
won't
smoke?
let anybody hurt them.
Sorry,
As we've
Mommy.
seen in the past, when a chapter is building up to release, Mob goes all out, putting emphasis on characters that will be important to that next chapter. We saw it with Catnap in Chapter 3's
That's me.
teasers and ARG.
I was
we saw it
important
with
at one
Harley
time.
Sawyer in the teasers and ARG for Chapter 4. We were given more notes and audio logs about their backstory and
There's
character,
Yarnaby.
but we never got that for Mummy Longlegs. However,
That's true.
we seem to be getting it now. Right
Oh.
at the time Mob
She's
is
gonna be on the
ramping
main
up for
cover?
Chapter 5. This amount of emphasis makes
Well,
me
there's
feel
Poppy
pretty
on the-
confident
on
that
the
Mummy
teaser
and all this
thumbnail.
extra detail about her transformation has to be important to the story we're about to see play
That's gonna
out
be
in
crazy
Chapter
if he's
5.
correct.
It could be just as simple as we're going to learn more about the operation process.
That looks
and
so
understand why
creepy right
Mummy
there.
and Marie had such a negative reaction to the whole experience. Or it's because we're
Maybe
getting
because
a
she was an
surprise
adult,
return
whereas
from
the rest of us
Mummy,
were kids.
just like Huggy. Maybe broken, or maybe she's been infected with more of this poppy gel, growing her into an even
Ew.
more horrifying monster and making
An
her a
even
part of
grosser
the
version?
Prototype's hive mind. But I
All right,
guess we'll
Prototype.
just have to wait and see. In the meantime, theorists,
This was insane,
remember,
guys.
That's just a theory.
Well, make sure you guys hit
game
the like
theory.
button.
Thanks for watching.
Let's watch another video right here.